a locally based nonprofit, is attempting to bring music to the underserved youth. CEO and founder of MusicianCorps, Kiff Gallagher, joins me today. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Connie. It's good to be here.
So tell me about the mission of MusicianCorps.
Well, the mission is to recruit, train, and place musicians wherever music can reach, teach, or heal. And what we mean by that is the organization really starts with the premise that music is a much more influential force in society than just entertainment. That, in fact, it can be used almost as a strategy for other outcomes, such as education outcomes, keeping kids in school, teaching them to focus and persevere, other youth development outcomes, and in hospitals and all sorts of other environments with high-need populations.
This seems especially important, especially with schools and cutbacks. A lot of education programs, they seem to cut a lot of arts and music programs first.
I know, it's a shame, and I think it's because there is this fundamental disconnect where people don't recognize that music and the arts really are teaching a lot more than just how to play piano or how to make a painting. They are teaching these critical skills for lifelong success, like teamwork and integrating feedback and, as I was saying, perseverance. And so it is often the first thing to go. And what happens is schools become sort of a drill and kill environment that makes kids not really want to be there at all. And so we found that by bringing music back into the schools, that in fact it makes kids more likely to be able to study, stay in school, and actually succeed in some of the other core academic subjects.
So tell me about some of your programs. What do you do with the kids, and what kind of difference do you see with the students who participate in the programs?
Well, there's so many different ways to teach music, and obviously education is very locally based. We're doing everything from technology, where kids are making beats and doing hip-hop stuff, but also learning critical technology skills along the way, and also just learning to play an instrument, but then doing so within the context of an ensemble of some kind, in a band or in an orchestra, and then getting that experience of performing. So often we'll focus on three basic areas: composition, so learning to write a song, which is really the art of creating something from nothing, which is entrepreneurship. It's imagining possibilities. It takes courage. And then the performance piece really forces them to be disciplined about rehearsing and practicing. And then obviously being in a band becomes something that teaches them to listen. So those are the three areas, but honestly it's everything from small groups to rock bands to traditional more orchestra to choirs, and it really depends on the school.
Now, are these all ongoing, or is there a beginning and end type of project?
Well, we try to do, we're working on some kind of culminating event. It's still very new. This idea of recruiting folks to work in service for a full year in return for a living stipend and health care isn't really new. It's just new to the arts. So obviously the Peace Corps works on this model, and some folks maybe heard of AmeriCorps, or certainly Teach for America, or some of these other, even Doctors Without Borders internationally. So in a lot of ways, we're taking that model, that Peace Corps model, and bringing it to music and more broadly the arts. So we consider it a one-year experience for the artists, but it's full-time. So it roughly correlates to the school year. There's a summer training, and then they work closely at 1 to 2 sites. And it's not only in schools. It's also, there's after-school settings and some independent nonprofits that we partner with that may have an after-school program where there may be a lot of youth gathered there. So it roughly correlates to the school year. And the other thing is that the MusicianCorps Fellows do 4 days of direct service in these schools and, as I said, after-school settings. But then on that 5th day, we bring the MusicianCorps Fellows together in whatever city they're in. So right now we're in the Bay Area, and we're also in Chicago and Seattle and in New Orleans. And on that 5th day, we do community engagement and civic engagement activities. So that's when our MusicianCorps Fellows will actually go to an AIDS hospice home, like in Pacifica, they're doing that. And I think next week The Musician Corps Fellows in the Bay Area will be going to a youth immigration detention facility to do a day-long workshop for youth there. And then I think tomorrow they're going, or I don't know what day it is, I guess Friday. This Friday they're going to a VA hospital in Palo Alto holding music workshops. So it's when we say we're bringing music wherever music can reach, teach, or heal, it's not just in public schools, but it's in all these other critical community-based organizations as well.
Wow, well, it sounds great, not just for the students and for the community organizations that are benefiting, but for these volunteers who are able to use their skills and talents to reach out to the people.
It's true, and the First Lady often says that the way community service should work is everybody ought to be given an opportunity to serve in the way that they really can do so uniquely. And we often hear about teachers and doctors and all these other types of a Green Corps and a Health Corps, but you don't really hear much about an Artist Corps. And yet that's one of the largest segments of the American workforce. I mean, they're chronically underpaid and underemployed, but there's a lot of Americans out there that self-identify as artists at some level, and even more that maybe work at a technology company or a bank or a law firm that have been lifelong guitar players who maybe can't give up a year but would be willing to give an hour or two a week to somebody who wants to learn an instrument but can't afford a teacher. And for that, we have Musician Corps mentors. So we're hoping to gin up that program as well, as in addition to the full year-long fellowship.
So how do you, or how will you measure the success of a program?
Well, certainly there's a lot of different things you can count, like numbers of hours served and numbers of children reached. But we think that it's also in the stories that they tell. And certainly when you've got a kid in a classroom who is having trouble relating with other children, and through music they learn leadership skills, they're able to communicate, they're able to connect with other students. But there's basically three areas of measurement impact. One is in the basic music skills that they learn. The other is in these 21st century workforce skills that I've mentioned, this teamwork, perseverance, discipline, etc. And then the third is measuring the impact, as you said, on the musicians themselves. And that has to do with opportunities, workforce opportunities for them. Because what we found is about 40% of the musicians right now, looking at our program, 40% of the current Musician Corps Fellows have been offered full-time, fully paid jobs after they serve as Musician Corps Fellows. So we feel like another critical impact is actually creating demand for these types of jobs. So we're kind of actually addressing this larger systemic problem that you originally asked about, which is that, why do they keep cutting arts programs? And I think the answer is that people aren't getting the value of them. So I think another way that we measure our impact, not only in terms of what we're doing with the students, but it's in helping the schools and really society at large to say, hey, culture and music and arts is really critical in this community, and we're going to find one way or another to support artists in their work with us. So that's a little bit.
Are you a musician yourself?
I am, yes.
What do you do?
I write songs and produce them and sing, singer-songwriter, mainly keyboard player, have a couple records. But honestly, since I started doing this a couple years ago, I feel like all my creative energy has gone into getting this thing off the ground, getting Music National Service off the ground. But I hope to get out and play again.
Well, that's great. I'm so happy to hear that you're using your passion for this. And I know it's still early on in your project, but I'm looking forward to hearing how it progresses.
Well, thanks. Thank you for your interest and for sharing our story. We really appreciate it. And make sure folks know to check us out at www.musicnationalservice.org.
Okay, we'll link that to our site. Thank you so much for sharing and talking to us.
Thanks for your time, Connie.
And to learn more about Musician Corps, go to our website at kcbs.com/communitycorner.